What does all of this tension mean for the ultimate peace talks? Let's get right to former USS Cole Commander Kirk Lippold. A remarkable exchange there in the Oval Office, followed by his interview with our own Bret Baier, where there was an opportunity for a bit of a cleanup. I just want to get your take to start things off.
Well, good morning, Molly, and thank you for having me on. When you really look at it, there was a failure on both sides yesterday. Let's face it, the United States is the world leader, and as such, both President Trump and Vice President Vance could have comported themselves in a manner where let President Zelenskyy act the way he did, but they didn't. President Zelenskyy, by the same token, and we also saw that in Bret's interview last night, didn't read the room. He didn't understand what was going on. At the end of the day, what Ukraine is concerned about, President Zelenskyy and others are concerned about more than anything else, is security guarantees. Clearly, the United States has failed Ukraine when we offered assurances in 1994 under President Clinton, when we didn't react to the invasion of Crimea under Obama in 2014, and then after the invasion with President Biden in 2022, the United States did not give Ukraine the tools it needed when they needed them to push Russia back. So consequently, when President Zelenskyy walks in and he sees both the president and vice president there, he knows that right there, he is in a position that is almost no win. While a mineral agreement would have been great to negotiate, unless there are security guarantees by the United States and by Europe, which is going to follow the U.S.'s lead, Zelenskyy knows that his country will still be in jeopardy.
Yeah, you said something really interesting there when you said he failed to read the room, meaning Zelenskyy, of course. I want to listen to just a portion of the exchange because I think you also zeroed in on something else that happened. Take a listen.
Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement. You got to be more thankful. Because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
President Zelenskyy there talks about those guarantees again. In reality, this particular event, this meeting, was about getting the deal done related to the unique minerals and to create this infrastructure and this collaboration on an economic front. And it seemed like, was he just not only, perhaps rude to the president and the vice president, but off topic in a certain sense?
I think to a degree he was. I think President Zelensky's main concern is that he was walking into a meeting and what he's being asked to do with yet another American president is to offer something from his country with no guarantees on the back end that he would be able to safeguard their security for the foreseeable future. I think by the same token, President Trump, in demanding a ceasefire, well, we've already seen where Russia has violated several ceasefire agreements with Ukraine to date. So there's a track record there that the president appears to be backing Russia. I don't think he would, but he appears to be backing Russia in a ceasefire and making it look as if Ukraine does not want it. I think everyone would like to have a ceasefire, come to the negotiating table, have those difficult discussions about what it's going to take for peace, not just short term, but long term with security guarantees. And right now, everyone is maneuvering and jockeying for position. President Putin says no peacekeepers in there from Europe. By the same token, Ukraine is saying, I can't afford to do any deal unless I have security guarantees to safeguard my nation's future.
Yeah, Zelenskyy also went into what's been described as this history lesson where he talks about diplomacy with Russia and why Russia can't be trusted and why diplomacy won't work. And certainly from his standpoint, that's something that he has experienced. Now there's this new president that would like to see an end to the war. In theory, there has to be some sort of diplomacy that eventually works if you're going to have a lasting peace, which is the ultimate hope. When he brought this up, it just seemed like he was taking the discussion which was the next discussion, which was about to happen, in front of everyone instead of what could have happened behind closed doors.
I think you're absolutely right, Molly. I think in some ways, President Zelenskyy, by trying to put history out there, That is a discussion that takes place at the negotiating table, or as you said, behind closed doors. You don't give a history lesson to the president and vice president of the United States. What you do is rely on them to speak for themselves, and then separately or after the meeting, clarify where your position is as your chief diplomat and president to make sure that the framework for going into peace negotiations is going to be understood by the public at large. I mean, Vice President Vance, in indicating he shouldn't have been litigating it in front of the American public, well, that he shouldn't have invited all the cameras in there to the Oval Office to begin with. So there was multiple faults on every side in what happened yesterday, and it's unfortunate. Now that it's happened, let's everybody take a step back, reset, figure out what we need to do to get everyone to the negotiating table, and let's get a peace agreement hammered out with guarantees for European and Ukrainian security, with that we can get a minerals deal, and that Russia also gets punished, especially Putin, for the horrific war crimes and murder that he has committed against the Ukrainian people.
Do you have a concern that Russia won't pay a high enough price going forward?
I think we need to wait and see. I think those negotiations are going to be difficult. I have no doubt that Putin cannot be trusted, and it is truly going to be, in the words of President Reagan, trust but verify. But in this case, it's going to be ruthless verification by the U.S., by the Ukrainians, and by the Europeans as to what President Putin and Russia do, because clearly they've demonstrated through their actions and through a track record they cannot be trusted, and there has to be consequences, not only for initiating the war, but for any future violations that occur.
Commander, do you think that Russia will be allowed to keep some of the Ukrainian territory that they have claimed and occupied for much of 3 years, if they've been holding that territory?
I would certainly hope not. I would hope that the Donbass and Luhansk regions, along with Crimea, get returned to Ukraine. And part of the reason why is, look, people want to always bring up, oh, but the history, and oh, this is what's happened before. In 1994, there was an agreement signed by the Russian government that recognized the Ukrainian territory and state as it exists today. They gave assurances that we would have those territorial guarantee, that territory would be respected and guaranteed if they gave up their nuclear weapons. The problem you're going to have is that if you do not return that territory back, if I'm a mullah sitting in Iran, why would I ever want to give up my nuclear weapons program, seeing what's happened to Ukraine itself, and that Russia cannot be trusted? It sets a bad precedent for the world and for other rogue nations like Iran, and eventually also for China as they lick their chops looking toward Taiwan and the Philippines and the South China Sea.
It would be quite something if Russia made an agreement and gave back that territory. Commander Lippold, thank you very much. Thank you for your insights and giving us your time on this Saturday morning. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Molly.